Hello everyone, my name is Chad Weston, co-founder of Traction House. We're a boutique digital marketing shop based in Toronto, Canada, and we are focused on the asset management, investment marketing niche. And today I just wanted to walk asset managers through a little bit of a use case on how you can use GeoTargeting to get the attention of local investors. And so GeoTargeting is a term we use in the marketing world to essentially distill audiences based on geography. And so what you're looking at right here is an example in Toronto. And what I've done is I've done some research based on Canadian tax filing data to pull the most wealthy postal codes in the city that also have investment activity shown based on tax filing. So specifically, these green boxes represent $80,000 or more in annual income, homeowner income, and at least 50% of the income tax filings in this postal code showed investment income. So essentially what we're doing is we're looking for people that are affluent, that have investable wealth, and that are investing that wealth based on the fact that more than 50% of the population is investing their assets. So as I mentioned, my name's Chad. I'm a co-founder at Traction House, and my business partner Simon and I are focused, and we're all in on the investment management space. So we typically will come and help ETFs, mutual funds, VC, real estate, private equity, financial advisors, wealth managers, and even exchanges basically get on the investor radar. So if that's a wholesale model and you're looking to really get in front of financial advisors, if you're an ETF issuer, for instance, or a mutual fund product, or if you're a hedge fund that's just looking to get directly to the end user, or if you're a financial advisor looking to get to the end user and build up your book and your client base, we're all about that game, and we were really enjoying the ride so far. And so just to situate where we're going today, I'm going to start out by talking very briefly on website and content. A lot of you by now know that a good website is important, but also having good content, good thought leadership pieces out there. Content really is the new king. When it comes to becoming known, liked, and trusted online, you've really got to think about investing in expressing yourself meaningfully to your audience and bringing value to them on a regular basis. But then the bulk of what we're going to talk about today is targeting and distribution. So it's not just enough anymore to make a website and then start doing blog posts and putting it on your Facebook feed. You've got to put some budget behind the distribution of that expression into very specific sets of eyes. And so we're going to talk about how to take a typical commentary piece and really put it in front of affluent individuals within driving distance of your office. So there's some advanced geotargeting methods we'll talk about. And then as a bonus, this gets a little bit more advanced, but I'm just going to plug some of the stuff that Simon and I are doing in-house regarding sales intelligence, analytics, and just really listening and taking a posture of listening to all that consumption activity that you're generating through your content, so that you can really start to make sense of your marketing dollars, and you can see them going to work for you, you can see them generating return, and you can see them generating leads. And so we'll finish off with that. All right, let's get started. So because I live in Toronto, we're going to use a Toronto-based use case. This is a fictitious character, Taxil Ahir. He's a wealth manager at ABC Wealth Management. And Taxil really is looking to expand his brand footprint, build up brand equity, and get in front of local affluent investors. And so that's the challenge, is he wants to generate new conversations with local investment prospects on a regular basis. So beyond traditional offline approaches through referral networks and events and conferences, how can Taxil leverage digital to really be in front of his local investment community on a regular basis, so he's influencing them and becoming a known, liked, and trusted thought leader in his geography? And so the real question is, how can Taxil leverage geotargeting, specifically in this presentation, to drive new investor conversations? That's where we're going to head. And so there's three parts to this. The first one's website and content. The second one's targeting and distribution. And then finally, there's some sales intelligence and a posture of listening and making sense of all the inbound activity that you're generating. So when it comes to website and content, the real question we ask is this: how do you persuade an ideal prospect that Taxil Ahir is worth a phone call? There's over 11,000 financial advisors in Toronto alone. And so it's a crowded space. There's a lot of competition. How does Taxil position himself favorably in the eyes of investors so that they at least want to talk to Taxil offline? And so your website should have one goal, and that goal should be to convert leads. And the reason that Simon and I always set that up as the website goal is because if your website's converting leads, it's typically an indication that the micro goals are being met. So it means that your design is friendly and mobile accessible, considering a lot of the traffic nowadays is mobile. You've got clear differentiated value, so you're able to establish yourself in the mind of the investors as someone that's unique, someone that's got something that's worth paying attention to that not a lot of other people have. You've got clear, accessible call to actions. So, your website doesn't only look good, it doesn't express yourself well, doesn't just express yourself well, it also moves people through a flow towards action. And the action we're looking for is revealing their identity. And so that's, contact form fill out, or a chat widget, or subscribing to your newsletter, just getting them to input their information and to, through permission marketing, essentially sign up to be engaged with you, so that you can know them on a named basis and you can track them and watch them online on a named basis. And finally, if your website's converting leads, it's typically an indication that your overall story is compelling enough to get people to engage with you offline. And that's really the goal here is, when it comes to lead generation, when it comes to building up your business and raising your AUM, people, unless it's robo-advisors, people probably aren't going to invest with you digitally before meeting you. And so really the goal of the website is to build up enough trust and enough rapport with your audience to move them to an offline relationship. And that's really where our end game is helping our clients establish a consistent flow of offline conversations. And so I've gone ahead and just grabbed a quick example here. It's Forward Thinking Wealth Management. I don't have any affiliation with Forward Thinking. They're based in Akron, Ohio, but I think that these guys do a pretty good job of setting up their website with a lot of the criteria that I've just talked about. So the first thing we notice is in their menu, they own niches. They're not really a broad master of all kind of firm. These guys are specifically focused on doctors and retirees. And so, if you're not a doctor or retiree, this is probably not someone that you would look to do business with. But if you are a doctor or a retiree, these guys are going to be interesting, and they're going to be probably more interesting than most financial advisors because they're completely focused and they're all in on you guys specifically, on the retirees and doctors specifically. Second thing we notice is he's got an engaging piece of content right inside the landing area. What you're looking at here is called the fold of a website. So when you go to a website, what shows up without you having to scroll, that's called the fold. So inside the fold, in fold, you want to have content that engages and that caters to the consumption preferences of your audience. Not everybody wants to read a lot, especially with the declining attention spans in today's attention economy. You want to have content that people can just passively consume. And the great thing about video is it's multisensory. It's not just a static read. If you are on camera, if you're comfortable being on camera, people are going to be able to pick up your personality, how you sound, how you look, how you just overall what kind of person you are and how you feel to them. And so they can engage a lot more of their sensory systems to figure out if they like you or not, beyond just blank text. And so this is a really good way to showcase and build up subliminally a lot of rapport with your potential prospects with a video. Next thing we know is seamless scheduling. So this guy's accessible. You don't have to go back and forth on email and wait for him to get back to you 2 days later to schedule a meeting. With 2 button clicks, you can essentially schedule a slot in this guy's calendar and know that you're going to be able to talk to him pretty quickly. He's got a very specific call to action. It's large, and it's not just a learn more button that scrolls down. It really is something that's specific to one of the niches, which is retirees. Click here to get a baker's dozens tips for a better retirement. And so I like this call to action because it's not a general get started or learn more. It's calling them towards a specific piece of content, and it's a value offer. If I'm a retiree, baker's dozen tips for a better retirement, that's pretty cool. If I'm interested if I'm in market for retirement planning services, or I'm a retiree already, seeing a piece of content like this is more likely to get me to click than something that's just a learn more button. And finally, he's got a clear differentiated value proposition. So one of the stigmas in the professional finance space is the incentive misalignment. So, financial advisors are just in it to make a buck. They're just in it to make their commissions, etc. So being able to state up front that this guy's at the financial level incentivized and aligned with his clients, it's a really good way to establish some trust in the mind of a new prospect. So just overall, I think that this website does a pretty good job at meeting a lot of these design criteria and content criteria to establish a base of trust with a prospect. So when it comes to content, the next thing we're going to talk about is content. So you got a good website, it's got a good clear call to action, you've got a video on there, etc. You need to have a consistent expression. You need to be able to express yourself consistently and consistently be putting out thought leadership pieces and content, whether that's the form of a blog post or a podcast or a video mini-series. The more you can be putting stuff on your website for people to consume over time, the better. And so when it comes to thinking about what kind of content you want to produce, Simon and I always set up that thought framework in this context. So customer jobs theory was popularized a while back, but it's starting to regain some traction. And it basically states this: the job to be done is the process that a consumer, or in your case, an investor, goes through whenever they aim to transform their existing life situation into a preferred one, but can't because there's a constraint that stops them. So if we skip ahead for a second, let's just talk about passing on wealth. So say there's a couple that's in retirement and they want to set themselves up properly to pass on their wealth to their kids. That's a job to be done. They don't know how to do it. There's constraints because there's complexities to being able to do that properly. And so having a financial advisor that specializes in passing on wealth or generational wealth is going to be attractive. And so if you are someone who's got a reputation for doing that kind of a service and taking care of retirees, then you want to produce a lot of content that talks about that and that educates and brings value to retirees that are thinking about or looking for a financial advisor to help them with this. And so always position your content as if it's helping your audience, whether it's retirees or doctors or people paying off their debt, helps them move through their job to be done. And so in the finance world, there's lots of jobs to be done. There's investment strategies, there's managing credit, there's the job to be done of retirement planning, or the job to be done of protecting your assets or dealing with taxes. So if you think about what you want to produce online, always be framing it from the perspective of, is what I'm saying going to help my audience move through their specific job to be done? And my biggest encouragement to you here is own your niche. So don't try and be the master of everything. Really get specific and deep in a couple of areas. And so reflect on your career so far. What are you reputable for? Like, what are the things you're known to be good at? What do your customers praise you to be good at? What do you know to be good at? What do you have good success with? Pick those things, own them, and run with them. And of course, always consult your compliance team. You always want to make sure that whatever you are outputting is compliant per the jurisdiction that you operate in. You never want to go offside and publicize something that would get you in trouble. So in terms of how do you express yourself, there's lots of different ways you can do it. Today we're just going to talk about blog articles, but there's a number of different ways that you can put out material online that can be consumed by your audience. Not everybody wants to read blog articles, so going with video is good. Sometimes people just want to listen to podcasts while they're going for a walk in the morning or they're driving to work. Or, if they're on the weekend and they want to read a long form case study, or maybe check out a sample financial plan that you put on your website. There's having a library of content that meets the idiosyncratic demand of your audience is important. But for today, we're going to talk about blog articles. So let's imagine for a moment that you have a good website, you have picked your niche, you now understand what niches you want to own, and you're starting to produce commentary, you're writing commentary on those niches. The next thing you want to do is you want to put dollars behind the distribution of that material. You want to actually start to get intentional and pay to have that material and that commentary seen by local wealthy investment communities. How do you do that? Well, that's what step 2 is all about. We're going to start out by looking at this typical Starbucks latte, which normally costs around $5 and change. In this case, we'll call it $5.93. And the reason I put this here is because I want to talk about I want to show you just how accessible digital marketing actually is. For $5.93, yes, you can buy a latte, but what you can also buy is 1,000 Twitter impressions. And this is just an example that I want to use here. So in the marketing world, there is a cost model called cost per 1,000 impressions, CPM. So how many dollars does it cost me as a financial advisor to have my commentary seen in the Twitter feed of 1,000 people? And the answer to that in Q4 2018 was $5.93 on average. So if we use Taxil as the example, our fictitious character here, let's say he wrote an article called "Are We in a Secular Bull Market?" Taxil, for $5.93, can put that commentary in the news feeds of his ideal people and get that seen 1,000 times. So it's pretty good bang for your buck. It's pretty good brand visibility. You can put his photo up there. You can put his title, his location. You can put a call to action button. For $5.93, you can have that blog article promoted to 1,000 Twitter feeds. But before you really get into that, you want to know, Taxil needs to identify who his ideal person is. And how does Taxil get their attention? How does he actually get into their psyche and start to spark them towards engagement with Taxil online? So the first thing Taxil would do is something like this. He'll put together one sentence that really defines his ideal person. And so in Taxil's case, a 30 to 65-year-old homeowner, so he's got to own a home, who makes at least $80,000 a year, resides within driving distance of him, which is in the Greater Toronto area, and who are likely to be investment-minded, this is a bonus, are probably good people for Taxil to pay money to be in front of. And so how do you get to this? How do you get in front of these people? What you're looking at here is what I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. And this is a postal code map, top 25 postal codes in Ontario that have at least $80,000 of annual homeowner income, but at least 50% of the tax filings within those postal codes show investment income. So we're inferring the likeliness to be investment minded by the fact that at least 50% of the people that live there show investment income on their tax data. So tax data in aggregate is actually publicly available both in Canada and the US. I went to canada.ca, and this is called Individual Tax Statistics by Area, ITSA 2017 edition, and it reports on the 2015 tax year, tax filing data. And from that report, I was able to pull the top 25 postal codes, this is what you're looking at here, that are investment active but also affluent. And so I'm going to go to a map which is a little bit more exciting than this table here, which shows this information, but it's on an interactive map. And I've linked that map in this LinkedIn post. So if you go to the LinkedIn post just above the video and you click on that map, that link, it's going to take you here. And what you're looking at here is that same map, and it's interactive. And so all of the green areas represent one of the 25 postal codes that have affluent income. And if you click on any of the black info icons, it's going to pull up some information. And I've input this into the system here. So for instance, in the M5R postal FSA in the Greater Toronto area, this is just north of the city. Here's downtown core, by the way. This is the Don Valley Parkway. And so you can see M5R. There was 19,460 tax filings taken care of inside of this postal FSA. Whoops, right here. 51% of those tax filings had investment income of some kind. And the average homeowner income for that area across that 19,000 filings is $120,000. And so if I'm Taxil and I'm in Toronto and I want to expand my book of business and I want to do that digitally, if I'm writing and putting effort into writing blog posts and commentary about certain niches that fall within my domain expertise in the finance space, I want to put dollars behind that stuff to be in front of people that live within the M5R postal code, for instance. Now, how do I do that? So if we go back to the slide here, the table on the right is the digital audience breakdown, the addressable audience breakdown within each of these postal codes on each of these channels. So we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, and we've got the Google Display Network. The Google Display Network, the easiest way I can analogize this to you if you're not familiar with it, is the Google Display Network is what's responsible for putting up the ad creative that you see beside the Wall Street Journal, or if you're on the Financial Post or Bloomberg, any of the major finance websites. If you see ad creative, oftentimes you'll probably see something from Fidelity or BlackRock or a lot of the big firms. They're using the Google Display Network and the Ad Exchange Network to programmatically put content in front of you. You actually have the power to do the same thing. It's not too complicated to get you up and running, but you can punch in zip codes or postal codes into this system, and it will give you back a total device count. So, for instance, if we go to M5R for an example, right? M5R is right here, and that is, let me find it here. It's this row here. It's this row. So the M5R postal code, I can't come across. I'm on a PDF. Sorry, guys. The M5R postal code has 17,514 devices that are within it that the Google Display Network can access. It's got 6,700 Twitter feeds that it can access and 17,000 Facebook feeds that it can access. And again, these are homeowners 30 to 65 years old that live within these areas. So if you think about it, you can pay money to have your blog promoted on these feeds in front of this group. And you can do that in aggregate across all the boards. So if you're Texile and you live in Toronto and you want to really become known, liked, and trusted by your local investing community, you can put this list of postal codes into each of these channels and promote your blog at these feeds. And what's going to happen is you'll see a certain flow of content, of visitors come in from those promoted content pieces and go onto your website and read the blog. And this is, again, this is directly, this is using geotargeting to get in front of wealthy individuals that are investment minded. And so the total reach for a guy like Texile in Toronto to those 25 postal codes is about 199,000 in Facebook and Instagram, 62,000 on Twitter, and 213,000 in Google Ads. So that's pretty powerful reach. And for the cost per 1,000 impressions, as cheap as a latte, it's not too difficult to see how Texile could put together a budget that promotes his commentary at these devices and starts to really develop his very, very targeted exposure using geo-targeting methods. Again, we talk about Texile promoting his blog article. He's paying $5.93 on Twitter as an example, and the other channels are similar in cost. They're not too much more or less than that. And Texile, for the cost of a latte, can start to really intentionally promote his commentary out on the devices of people who are affluent and likely to invest or be investment minded. And to give you an idea of the kind of familiarity that Texile can build in the mind of an investor, let's talk about Jody. Let's say Jody, for instance, lives in that M5R postal code that we talked about earlier. And once Texile starts to pay to have his commentaries promoted on the devices of the M5R homeowners, Jody, for instance, might jump on her Instagram feed in the morning when she wakes up and see Texile's promoted content, promoted article. And she may ignore it, that's okay. And she might see it beside the Wall Street Journal if she's reading an article in the Wall Street Journal. And then later in that day on Instagram, she sees it again. And you can see throughout the day all the different touch points where Texile's photo and his promoted commentary piece shows up on the news feeds of Jody, who is a homeowner that lives in the M5R postal code. And so this is a really, really, really powerful way for a financial advisor with a limited budget to be intentional and be smart with where he puts his money to get his commentary seen by the right people. And so this is just a high-level overview of what a typical publishing cadence could look like for a guy like Texile. If he wants to start light, he only wants to write 4 blog articles a month, publishes 1 per week every Sunday night or Monday morning. And for a 7-day period after publishing, he can pay $5 a day on advertising, $5 or $6, to have his commentary that he published on the Monday promoted to those postal codes. And he generates traffic from that, generates views, and if his website is set up to nurture and convert leads, he'll be able to start to generate known identities from this activity. So over the course of 2, 3, 4 months, you can see why putting dollars behind this content flow, setting up a cycle where you're bringing traffic onto your site of people that consist strictly of wealthy individuals that live within postal codes, wealthy postal codes of your area, is a worthwhile thing to do. Finally, as a bonus, just to finish off this presentation, I want to talk a little bit about sales intelligence. So beyond just creating the content and distributing that content out onto the news feeds of wealthy individuals that live within your area, there's a third step, and this is really a posture of listening and paying attention to all the activity that you're generating on your feeds. And this is we call this sales intelligence. So the real question that sales intelligence answers is this: is Taxil's digital efforts, all that blog article, all that commentary that he's writing, the dollars he's putting behind that to distribute it out to homeowners within his area, is all that stuff actually generating conversations with his ideal people, with affluent individuals who are likely to invest? Sales intelligence helps Taxil answer that question. That's the beauty of digital, is you can track everything right down to clicks, impressions, conversion rates, all that stuff. So what you're looking at here is a tool that Simon and I use called Kissmetrics for all our clients. And Kissmetrics allows us to pay attention to every single visitor that comes on your website, where they came from, where they live. The identity remains anonymous until a person reveals themselves on a form and converts. And once they convert, all their interaction history and all future interaction is tied to their identity, so that you as a financial advisor can pay attention to wealthy individuals that live within your area that are on your site. And you can start to see which ones are engaging in your content and are frequently reading your commentary, etc., and queue up the right time to reach out to them and offer them more and talk to them offline. So that's what that's all about. And as an example of that, let's say Marcel is also somebody that lives in the M5R postal code, and Marcel initially saw on LinkedIn the advertisement that Taxil was putting up called "Are We in a Secular Bull Market?" And Marcel also ends up, once he gets to the site, checking out Taxil's sample financial plan, subscribes to Taxil's newsletter, and then maybe a week goes by, and on Facebook, he sees an ad for 4 types of wealth. It's another commentary piece that Taxil put out. He reads that piece, and then Marcel goes to Taxil's About Us page, watches Taxil's video, and sees Taxil talk about his investment philosophy. And from that point on, Marcel really does have enough trust to request a meeting and wants to meet Taxil offline. And all of that interaction history, that whole journey of Marcel's, is tracked, and Taxil can look at that and know that when he meets with Marcel, he can start to focus his conversation around the things that Marcel was looking at online on his website. Topics like active investing, financial planning, capital preservation. So it's really positioning Taxil to optimize the conversation with Marcel according to the sales intelligence and the consumption metrics that Marcel generated on the website before ever meeting Taxil offline. So it's a really, really neat way to optimize your outreach. And then finally, the big question is, at the end of the day, is Taxil's marketing spend, is the dollars he's putting in to expressing himself digitally, he's putting budget behind that expression, returning back in the form of AUM? Is he building his book? Is he ultimately able to run a cycle that increases the success of his business and increases his AUM? And so in a fictitious world here, in a perfect world, this is what that picture would look like. So, in the sales intelligence side would produce numbers like this, where Taxil would be able to see that the total reach was 237,000 homeowners in his area within driving distance, $80,000 minimum income. Over the course of the month of January, over 4 blog posts, he generated 28,000 impressions at this group. He generated 3,000 website views on his articles. He generated 47 leads from that website. So 47 offline conversations or inquiries, 247 new newsletter subscribers. And then out of that 47 leads, he closed 4 new clients. Increased his AUM by $1.3 million. That's a pretty successful month, obviously. It's not always going to be the case. This is just fictitious numbers to show you, but you can see that it cost him $1,558 to acquire each one of those new investors, and it cost him $132 for each one of the 47 conversations that he was able to generate from his content efforts online. And so having this level of intelligence is ultimately what's going to tie the loop back and bring you peace of mind and clarity in knowing that every dollar I put into the system, I get X amount of dollars back. And it's going to take quite a bit of time to establish this level of intelligence and this level of confidence in your digital marketing. But, eventually this is the beauty of digital, is you can actually start to put together a picture like this. All right, well, that's it for me. I really, really appreciate you guys taking the time to check this out. I hope our time together today has been valuable. I hope it started to spark your interest a little bit in some of the neat ways that you can spend dollars online to really generate targeted interest in your brand, build up your brand equity, and generate conversations online. If you're looking to take your digital game to the next level, Simon and I would be happy to chat. You can contact us right here on LinkedIn. You can just send us a message, or you can go to traction.house and request a free consultation. Thanks. Have a great day, guys.